Thanks. Yeah.
Right.
Great to be here, by the way.
Yeah, thank you for coming here. So, I think we can start off by asking one question to the audience. Everybody here, raise your hand if you have ever heard about Traveloka. Have you guys heard about Traveloka? Wow. Okay, so you're quite famous already here, but yeah, for the sake of it, because some people might not know. So, what is Traveloka?
Yep. The way we see it is we're actually building services that make it easier for people to move around between cities in Indonesia. But in terms of business model, we're an online travel agent today.
Travel agent.
Online travel
Online.
agent today, yeah.
I see. Right. Can you say that you're the leading online travel agent in Indonesia?
I think we can. Yeah, I think it's. I think it's based on whatever data that we can get publicly about our competitors. I think that's true now. It's been true for I think since the early this year. I think if you look at the number of traffic and transactions and.
Right.
Yeah.
But can you share some numbers from Traveloka? Because some numbers, man.
Yeah, we might not be. I might not be able to share a lot of numbers, but in terms of visits, we're getting tens of millions today in a month.
Tens of millions revenue, users, flight bookings.
Tens of million visits.
Visits.
So yeah, that's probably what I can share for now. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so it's quite big, but so how many rounds have you raised so far?
We've announced 2 rounds. So we raised our seed funding from East Ventures, and then about a year after that, we decided to accept an investment from Global Founders Capital.
So Global Founders Capital, it's backed by Rocket Internet guys,
exactly.
right?
So it's I think it used to be a personal investment vehicle of Oliver Somewhere, which is the founder of Rocket Internet, and we thought they were I think they could be a good partner because of their experience in operating in this region.
Nice. Anyway, there's the drink for you.
Oh yeah,
can.
Thanks.
So. Yeah, because we're gonna be here for the next 25 minutes, so let's get comfortable. So because I think what the audience might benefit from this is how you. I think I'm interested to know how you started this journey of Traveloka, right? So maybe if we look back into the past, can you share like what happened during your childhood that you may think that shaped your entrepreneurial trait?
I see. First of all, I don't necessarily see myself as an entrepreneur. Actually, I'm definitely more of a software engineer or programmer than entrepreneur. So I got the programming bug early on when I was in junior high school, and then I went on to study computer science and math at college, and then went straight to Microsoft to become a software engineer. So definitely I was a programmer through and through. But definitely, a couple of years down the road, I decided that I might not be the best programmer around, and decided to kind of learn more about business and
What piqued your interest to start a business?
So I got the opportunity to went to China to go to China a couple of years ago. I lived there for a couple of months, and I saw how the internet ecosystem was definitely very developed, and travel industry was definitely very, very mature. Chinar and Ctrip were there, and definitely took note that travel is a very interesting area, and if I were to start a company, travel was definitely one of the things that I would probably do. But really, the aha moments came when from personal experience. So I did a lot of traveling when I work in the U.S. I live in I'm from Padang, so I always found that it's very difficult to find a flight from I think I was in Boston at that time to Padang, because it's very easy to find flight from Boston to Jakarta, right? but very, very difficult to find a flight from Jakarta to Padang, which I'm from. So definitely, I thought it's very, very annoying, and definitely somebody should be able to solve this problem. So and eventually we decided to do a travel search.
Right,
Exactly, solve this problem.
Can you explain a bit about the timeline? Because you came from Padang, you then went to the U.S.,
Yep.
Worked in Boston.
Yep. I work in Seattle and studied in Boston. Yeah.
Right, but you worked at Microsoft
Yep.
as a programmer in the U.S.
Yep.
When was this China travel?
Yeah. So at the end of my third year in Microsoft, I had, I thought I should probably I decided that I'm probably not the most talented programmers around, and decided to to do something else probably. And on the way, I decided to apply to MBA, got accepted, and but before I started school, I went on China, also on a whim basically. So
Right.
yeah.
So you got accepted to an MBA program in Harvard, right?
Yep. Mm.
But before you went to Harvard, you went to China first.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. One question: did you finish your Harvard education, bro?
I didn't. So after first semester, I got into discussion with my co-founders, and we thought there was really good timing to start a company, especially in travel space. And I thought it was not very easy, because dropping out of the first semester was not common, and I remember my classmates were definitely questioning my decision, and my parents definitely. But looking back, I think it was exactly the right timing to start Traveloka.
Right. So you went to Harvard.
Mm.
Was it a scholarship?
No, it was out of pocket actually. Yeah.
So you paid for it.
Yeah. So I saved a little bit from 3 years of working, and
And
paid
you
it.
still
Okay.
decided to drop Harvard.
Yeah. So I remember I and Derry, my co-founder, we discussed this again and again. I remember at one point we write the pro and cons and trying to calculate exactly the nominal value of the opportunity cost of not starting versus starting company now. And it was not easy. I mean, for Derry, it was also very difficult, because he had he worked at LinkedIn back then, and he had some unvested stocks post IPO. So it was definitely not an easy decision. But we decided to be very rational. We tried to calculate all this the real cost of starting. But eventually we decided that hey, we were just 23 at the time, and if we were to make mistakes and do something crazy, I mean, there's no better time than it was then.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so I'm still figuring out the rationale here, because you said that it was kind of it made sense, right?
Yeah.
But it makes sense now. But looking back, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But back then, again, you were in Harvard, and you paid for it.
Yeah.
Your partner had some shares before LinkedIn IPO. It was a huge gamble back then.
Yeah, it was one of the probably stressful times of my life, but I read Tech in Asia, Daily Social, and all these tech blogs, and there were a lot of activities on the industry back then. So I think it definitely gave us more confirmation that this is for real, right? So I think I remember Distus was invested by his venture, and then there was another company in travel space that also started during the same time. So we definitely eventually
Ticket,
decided
right?
that it was Ticket. So I was in school when Ticket was started, and we thought, hey, from now on, I think things are gonna be happening really, really fast, and we were afraid that we will miss the train, so to speak. So it definitely, it was not easy, but looking at all these events that were leading, then it made sense for us.
Right. So if there's people here that wants to drop Harvard for a startup they want to build, what kind of advice would you tell them?
So it's always very hard when you're in the moment of making the decision, but it always makes sense. It always makes sense when you look back, and especially when you compare between schools and just throw yourself directly into the real world. I mean, there's definitely real world is more interesting. It's unpredictable, and you can almost always learn much more than school. So.
So drop school, don't go to school.
Yeah. I mean, probably just go there, experience what's being in school likes, but do it anyway. Probably start anyway because it's always more interesting.
Teachers out there would hate you right now. Yeah.
Probably.
So then you started Traveloka, right? But the Traveloka right now is an online travel agent. But before then, it was a meta search.
Yep.
What happened? Why did you pivot?
Yeah, so when we first started, so we were just engineers, and we thought that travel search was definitely within travel search is definitely more interesting to us because we can focus on just the technology and the user-facing experience and things like this. But so we actually launched as a travel search in almost 2 years ago, and then but quickly enough we learned that the problem was not only about searching or finding flights, but it's actually about transacting online. So transaction was definitely still a huge problem, and we felt that we're not exactly solving the right problem at that time. And of course, we are getting a lot of complaints from customers that started their search from Traveloka and then went on to complete their transaction somewhere else and complain that they're not getting tickets or they're not receiving supports as they should. So we thought that we're not going to be able to help these customers if we only search. So we decided to be more end-to-end, and it was, I think it's a good decision because having control of the user experience end-to-end is always good. Sorry.
Yeah. I see, but the transition when talking about real world, right? What's the main difference in terms of business operations when you pivoted into?
It was a huge difference. So when we were doing travel search, it was just a very small team. We were I think 10 people, and I think that was all the team that we needed to build a great product. At least that's what we thought. But when we started doing transactions, now we have to do customer support, we have to do transactions, and we're dealing with people's money here, right? So we have some kind of responsibility. Then we have to do much more accounting and all sorts of functions just came up along the way, and so.
Right, but so basically you had to make offline businesses, right?
Exactly,
compared to the meta search business model.
Yeah, so we cannot solely live on the internet, but we also have to have some kind of offline presence, business development and this sort of things.
Right.
So definitely much more complicated than it was when we were just a search engine.
How difficult was it for you? Because you said that you were a programmer by nature.
Yeah.
But then it was okay. You were cozy back in maybe in your apartment back then. You coded your heart's away for Traveloka meta search. But then you had to pivot into an online travel agent that needs offline presence. Yeah. How difficult for you?
Yeah, so very difficult. So remember when we first approached airlines, it was definitely not easy. So airlines are generally larger companies, and they don't deal with startups, right? So it was not very easy. But the beauty about I think internet is that you can actually build up the users and make yourself definitely more relevant to these businesses. So that's what we did. We focus a lot on building the user base, building a great experience, and as we build up the customer base, we become more and more relevant to the airlines and decided to work with us.
I see. Which one was more difficult, getting your first airline or your first customer?
I think working with analysts is definitely much more difficult because we were, I think, in terms of timing, we were just right because people are already starting to search for their travel needs online. So, for example, search for cheap tickets already in millions of queries. So we focused a lot on online marketing, and we were able to build our initial user base.
Okay. So how many people at Traveloka right now?
We have more than 200 people currently.
You founded the company just 2 years ago, right?
That's right. Yeah.
But now it's 200 people.
Yep.
How do you manage them all?
Yeah. It's definitely not. I didn't have experience managing a team, especially a large team before. But so out of 200, so more than 50 are actually in development. So they're developers, and it's actually a little bit easier because we're kind of alike. So we definitely and we were just we were young guys. We're kind of in the same age range, so it makes it a little bit easier. But still, I think building a team, building especially as you grow, and making sure that your team can communicate well, keeps building products very quickly. I mean, that's tough. That's definitely very tough, and there's a lot of art and science, and it's not obvious. So that's very difficult.
What's your biggest mistake when scaling your company?
It was our first experience building a company, and we made mistakes all the time, even today probably. But I think, the mistakes that are probably we prefer not to make is probably around building a team. So we just always want to make sure that the team is a good fit, and the wrong person can have a very bad long-term negative impact to the company. So definitely maybe if hiring is probably one of the areas that we prefer to make as few mistakes as possible.
Right. So what's the lessons learned again when it comes to hiring? Always make sure that it's a fit. I mean, it's a cliche, of course, but it's definitely true. And if you only let the right kind of people into your team, it makes things easier. Sometimes you don't even need a really good management because good people will be motivated, and they will perform anyway, right? So that makes if you even make mistakes in management, then it will be not as emphasized. So definitely only let the right kind of people to join your team. So. Okay. And you grew up to 200 right now,
Yep.
and you have TV ads everywhere, right?
Yep.
So how did you grow so fast? What did you do right?
So the thing about building what we're building is this is not new, right? So we're actually probably the youngest OTAs around. We only became an OTA last year, and in something that's in terms of business model, it's online travel agents, the oldest business model around. So it's not about doing one thing right, but it's just it's a little bit of it's the little things that we do right. For example, we focus on payments, we focus on marketing a lot, we focus on building the product, we focus on customer support, we focus on these little things that as a whole it makes for a very good service.
Can you share a bit more? Like can you share some case studies, for example?
For example, online marketing, for example, it's for online travel. Online marketing is definitely very key because people do search for their travel needs online, but getting it right is very difficult. So it always comes down to the measurement. You want to be as precise for your measurement as possible. Otherwise, then it will easily blow up, and the cost will grow like crazy. But you always want to make sure that it makes sense and all the time. So you need to be able to allocate your resource the right way. So that's that's easy to start, but very hard to master. So that's probably one of the things that we focus on being really, really good at.
Mhm. If there's one key feature at Traveloka that keeps customers coming back, what would you say that feature is?
Um, just like any good service, so I think when we build a really good service, people will notice it, right? So there's not one thing that stand out, but it should blend in. So people should not know exactly, cannot pinpoint one thing that's really good about us. So it might be, we have better pricing, or we have better support, or we have better experience, but it should kind of blend in as a whole. So that's our approach.
I see.
Mm.
So, can you do you have an idol entrepreneur that you look up to?
Mm, I've been reading books by Ben Horowitz. I think it's Hard Things About Hard Things, and some books by Andy Grove, the former CEO of Intel, and definitely that two of the figure from the tech industry that I look up to. I think a lot of the things that they describe in the books really resonate with me about how difficult it is to build a team, build a product, and always keep yourself motivated and these things. So yeah, probably that. Probably the two people that definitely very inspirational. To me,
I
yeah.
see. So, in more detail, what did you learn from reading those? Reading about them?
So in his book, Ben Horowitz explained, there are some things that are not. So tech startup is always sometimes people focus on just kind of the hard aspect of it, growth, users and experience, but behind it, there's a lot of very difficult things that people will face anyway in any business, right? Like building the right kind of organization, motivating people, and a bunch of other stuff that are happening on the backgrounds, and people don't usually talk about because it's not really. It's very difficult, but not necessarily only related. It's not directly related to internet, but more about building a company. But we're a company, right? So although we do internet, we also a company, and we also face the same kind of things. So for me, it's quite it's good to know that a lot of even great entrepreneurs, great CEOs also face the some kind of issues that I do. So that's probably a learning. So it doesn't make me sometimes I feel like. Am I really like the worst CEO or the worst entrepreneur in the world? But I think by reading the books, I know that these are actually some very, very difficult problems that they're not easy answers to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the biggest learning for me.
Right. Okay. So I know that recently Traveloka had some problems with managing some airlines.
Yeah.
Like I think Lion Air, Air Asia. Yeah, what happened?
So for airlines, it's always a problem, right? So first of all, in terms of reliability, it's not where we want it to be. So that's always been a perennial problem about getting the kind of reliability that we need to make a kind of a service that we want to build. But in terms of managing relationships, airlines are definitely more concentrated compared to other industry, and it's always been it's not always easy to work together with them. So
how do you convince your first airline partner?
So for airlines, supply, they always have more supply than demand. So I think services like ours, which can help them fill those seats, will always be helpful for them. So definitely, when we started, we gave them sales, and they appreciate that. So.
Okay. So let's talk a bit about competition, because there's, well, if we name competitions, there's Skyscanner, WeGo, Priceline, Ticket. How do you plan to compete against them all, and how do you decide, like, okay, I think the market is still there despite all of these players.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough, competitive areas, and from the get-go, we not only have to compete with other startups, but also with some of the global giants already, right? So I think, yeah, so it's not easy. So online travel is definitely very competitive, and it's already global. So meaning other companies from anywhere can also have some kind of presence here. So, but on the other hand, it's, on the other hand, it's the same thing for us. I think if you build a really good service, we will also have opportunities to be relevant in some of markets other than Indonesia as well. So I think that's I think it's a good bargain for us.
Okay. Before we move, I'd like to check how much time do I have, guys? Still? Oh, wrap it up. Right. Maybe some last few words for entrepreneurs out there. For you, what's one book that you would recommend all entrepreneurs read? Because you're a reader, right?
Yeah. So so that's the book that I'm currently reading. So Ben Horowitz' book. It's called Hard Things About Hard Things. So that's definitely a very kind of tell-all books about building a company, and should be relevant to many entrepreneurs, especially in the internet or tech space.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.